Yeah, that was really awesome. The park
That
atmosphere.
was such a cool feeling. I was playing. I'm like, fuck me, it's 10 o'clock and I'm getting a suntan. It's like
Yeah, it
10
was really
p.m.
so
at
funny.
night. After every show we play, and we're gonna play a lot of shows. Dude. He goes, I don't know if you're the right fit for this band. And holy fuck, talk about instantly sobering your whole view of everything. He's an amazing drummer and just a really, really humble, nice guy. And it's like I learned a lot. But the thing I really took from Gene's drumming is
At least at some point you used to also play with those closed headphones.
yeah.
Which
Yeah.
ones were those?
He's like the only person who's gonna sound as good or even be better than Neil Peart is Neil Peart. So be RVP. Be Ryan Van Poederooyen. Come up with your own thing. When I was 20, if you told me I was going to be playing with Devin Townsend, not a fucking chance. Devin wasn't even famous then. You know what I mean? It's like you just don't know. So when you wake up, you can control right fucking now. And that's what your life is a series of decisions. He or she just happened to have perfect timing. You know what I mean? But I jammed to it. I played in front of it. Sometimes I would play behind it because Dev said, I really want Deadhead, for example, play a little bit behind the click on that. So I would fuck with it. You know what I mean? And I'd play with it. Van Poederooyen.
Poederooyen.
Yeah.
Where does that last name come? It's not really traditional Canadian last name, I guess.
No, it's Dutch. It's very, very Dutch. Yes.
Yeah, I was actually thinking. Yeah. There's that you have always those one things and in the last names.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm very popular in the Netherlands whenever I've toured there. Man, I got a real special place in my heart for Finland in general, just because, they took a chance on Devin Townsend Project when we actually, played Tuska the first time back in 2010. And they had us play 2 shows. One was like just a regular set of all of our songs, but then they let us do the Ziltoid thing. And,
right, exactly.
It was pretty cool, man. So we've always had a special thing with Finland.
Right. I was at that Tuska. I've skipped one Tuska, but basically since they've been in 3 locations, but I was there that summer and I watched you guys play.
Yeah, that was in the old location in the middle of the city in the park there.
Yeah, that was really awesome. The park
that
atmosphere.
Was such a cool feeling. I was playing. I'm like, fuck me, it's 10 o'clock and I'm getting a suntan. It's like
it was really so
at night. It was crazy. But and then the new location was really cool too, because just the background is like it's where you are. You see that background, you're like, oh, that's Tuska. Like you could tell with the new location, right? So we played the new location twice, and we only played the old location once. So
yeah, exactly. It's a shame that they had to move away from the park location. I think it was maybe 10 or 8 years or so, maybe in that park, and we kind of got used to that. And back in the day, things were more free with the alcohol. We were able to bring our own drinks there, like everybody came fully loaded there. We barely took a couple of beers at the beer tents, but it was like this awesome metal picnic. Like it was like paradise kind of.
It was amazing. Yeah. It was all I remember is it was a really cool vibe, and the fans were so appreciative and supportive. And I remember going out that particular time, and we went to a bar till like 4 a.m. or something, and obviously there are a bunch of fans there because it's Tuska, and man, I think I was drunk in like an hour because everyone's buying you a drink. You're just like, holy shit, I couldn't even keep up, man, but the people were just so warm and friendly and and it's like us, we're very receptive to people who are our fans, people who follow us, right? Or I know I am, and everyone in the band was, and yeah, it was like this mutual appreciation, and
exactly. Yeah.
That's what I really loved about Finland, and we get that in a lot of countries, but there was something different about Finland, man, and the way you guys accepted Devin's music and us as his band, it's just a really cool feeling.
Exactly. Was there so you were there in the 2010, and then maybe the 1 year after that was also summerish, very
Yeah,
like a
2011. Yeah.
really like sunny thing. And then at least once, but did you also come still later some years,
Yeah.
maybe after 2015?
I think it was 2017.
Right, I think so.
If I remember correctly, it was. Yeah, it was. It was 2017. And it was interesting because that was a fly-in show for us. It wasn't part of any tour because it was a summer tour thing. So we flew in for Tuska that weekend from Canada. And when I got there, I was endorsing, I switched from Pearl drums and I moved over to Sonor. And I was like, I remember Sonor was like, okay, well, what are we going to need? I was flying in my own rack system, but then I need all the drums and all the stands. And I'm like, oh shit, I have a very particular setup. I was like, is this going to show up? You know, and one of my,
Exactly.
and so my tech, he hits me up on text on his phone. He's like, you got to come see this, man. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, is everything good? He goes, just come here. And usually when a tech does that, they're kind of saying, dude, you're shitting here. This is going to be a different type of show, you know? But I get down there and I go, where's my kit? And then he points and it's a shitload of Sonor boxes. And I'm like, what is that? And he's like, dude, they sent you a brand new kit to your specs. Everything, like, it's brand new. And we open it up and sure enough, brand new ProLite, their flagship series ProLite, everything was accounted for. Like, I was blown away. I'm like, that's support. And that's why you have those endorsements, right? And I've been with Sonor ever since and I love that company. But yeah, I'll never forget that. That was so cool. It's like we're cracking open and I even had to help them because I had an Evans heads order and stuff. We had to take off all the old heads, unwrap the plastic. Everything was brand new. So it was pretty wild, man, and really cool experience. And that was a great show too.
Yeah. I guess you basically then still bought your own cymbals.
Yeah, we flew in my cymbals, we flew in my rack, but I have a European setup. So all my stuff was kept in the UK. So we'd fly in like my cymbals. Actually, you know what? We flew in all my hardware because they made custom hardware for me. So what they supplied me with were all the drums, the throne, and stuff like that. But it was all brand new, so it was just like
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. So really cool experience.
Right. Yeah, and I guess when you had, for example, that fly-in show, do you also bring all of those like bells? You have a lot of like these bell kind of like splashes and things like this.
Yeah, radio chimes and bells and chinas and splashes and everything. It's just in this I endorse hard case and they're the best cases, man. And they have this huge cymbal case and I'm able to fit absolutely everything into it. So yeah, my exact setup was everywhere that I played in the world.
I think it's you also use a lot of those like chimes or what are those bells and things
radio
like.
chimes,
Have you had that long time and how did you kind of come up with that addition to the set?
With okay, so that's an interesting question. That's a great question actually. It's going to be a little bit of a long answer because
all right, we have time. At least I have time.
You got time. Yeah, so I got my coffee, I got my water and all these things going on, so we're good.
Awesome.
Okay, so it goes way back as to why I have all that in my setup. My favorite drummer of all time is Neil Peart from Rush. I just grew up on Rush, learning his records, learning his style. And he had always a massive kit, right? But it wasn't really sprinkled. He only, I think, had one splash or maybe two, but and a couple chinas. But what had happened is I went to see Rush. And I've seen him 3 times, but it was the Presto tour. And there was this band opening for him. And when I went to it, their kit was on stage and I was like, oh my God. And it just had splashes and bells and octobans and like Neil Peart had a crazy kit, but this one just looked like it was from outer space. That band was Primus. And Tim Herb Alexander was the drummer at that show. And it was this pork pie percussion kit. And when they played, I never heard Primus before. And they played and they instantly got a brand new fan in me. I was just like, and I watched them I believe they're touring the Sailing the Seas of Cheese and he was hitting all these splashes and just how creative Tim was on the kit. Instant new fan. And now, as it stands, my top 3 drummers of all time. Number 1 is Neil Peart. My second biggest influence after that was Tim Herb Alexander. And he's one of the biggest reasons why I have all those splashes and bells, because he just made me look at drumming differently. And number 3 is Gavin Harrison, who's just incredible. There's everything about Gavin. Gavin's like Neil and Tim, and then something else, himself wrapped up into one. Like, he's everything. So Gavin just blows my mind. He's my favorite drummer on the planet right now. But and he's a really nice guy. I'm actually friends with him. But you know, he's just an incredible drummer. But Tim Alexander is one of the biggest reasons, I will say the biggest reason as to why I have all these radio chimes and splashes and effect cymbals in my kit. So when I joined Devin, specifically not for Accelerated Evolution, that was more of a rock album, but Synkestra was our true venture into progressive music. And that's when I brought out the stack cymbals, the chinas, the bells, the splash, and they're all over Synkestra, you know, and that's when that whole venture started. And that's when I added that to my kit. And then when, you know, Devin Townsend Project came out with Addicted, I had like the 3 rack toms, splashes, bells, and it never left my kit after Synkestra. So, yeah, exactly. That's how it all came to be. So thank you, Tim Alexander. And I'm actually friends with Tim too. And he's incredible drummer, incredible person. And he really did influence me into going into that style of drum kit.
Which year was this Primus warm-up for the Rush?
Oh boy, I think it was 90. When was Presto? That had to be like maybe 91 or 92, around there.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a while ago. Yes, I'm a little bit older.
Oh, yeah. I've been also digging a little bit of Rush. There's certain albums which I like, you know, like Roll the Bones. I think Roll the Bones might have come a little bit after that, maybe 92.
Or you know what? Maybe it was, because I saw the Presto tour, but I saw the Roll the Bones tour. Maybe it was Roll the Bones.
Okay, yeah.
It was Roll the Bones that Primus opened, I think. You're right. I saw both tours.
Okay, yeah.
And the cool thing about that, when I saw Primus, I had front row tickets. Front row center. We showed up to the gig. We didn't even have tickets. I'm like, I really want to go to Rush. My friends came in from Vancouver Island. And I said, let's see what we can get for scalpers. And we found a scalper. And get this, you know, it was expensive at the time, but still a steal at the time. We got like front row tickets for like $80 or $100.
Not bad.
You know, now, good luck. You know, we're talking thousands if you wanted that now. But back then, it's just like he said, hey, and even then it was a steal, because, you know, he could have probably got 200 for him, but he was just getting rid of them. So we got there, we show up, and we're front row for a Rush show. And, you know, my eyes were locked on Tim and Neil all night, right? It was amazing. Yeah.
Right. For me, I got into the Devin first from the Terria album. I don't know how do you pronounce it. It's Terria, or Terria. How's the pronunciation of that? But I guess on that one you weren't still in, but Gene Hoglan was playing the drums.
Gene was playing drums for that one. Yep.
Right. But then he decided to step out, and you came in. What was that kind of like behind that switch?
It's an interesting story. So just so you know, Gene loves Devin's solo stuff. He really loved it. And it wasn't even Gene wanting to step out of it. It was Devin who said he wanted to separate Strapping Young Lad, because the Strapping guys were also playing his solo stuff live. And he's like, I want it to be 2 different entities. So I think Gene, from what I understand, was even a bit bummed. He was like, oh, I love playing your solo stuff too, because it was a different style of drumming for him, right?
And a bit easier as well, like with relax even. Well, Gene plays it relax, strapping and all that stuff as well.
And you know what? I wouldn't even say that, because Gene's a fantastic drummer, period. But some of the parts that he came up with were very creative, and they're tricky to play in their own right, in more of a progressive way as opposed to blast beats in just a metal way, which Strapping Young Lad was. So a lot of his drum parts, like he listened to Infinity and all that. There's some
Yeah.
incredible drumming from Gene. He's just such a versatile, tasty drummer. You know, he's Gene Hoglan, man. Guy's a legend, you know, and so anyways, with when it came to it, uh Devin just said to Gene, hey, I'm gonna, do the solo stuff separate from strapping. You're obviously gonna be the strapping drummer, but I want to find someone else for this. From what I understand, he was a little bit bummed. But how it worked is Devin went around Vancouver and he talked to all the musicians, producers, studios, friends. And in the end, he even talked to Gene. He said, listen, who would you recommend to step in to do your thing? And how the story goes is when I met Devin, I remember I met him in his car outside this parking lot of this place called A&B Sound. That's when we first met. And he wanted me to bring some demos. So I, brought a demo CD or whatever. And he's like, okay, well, let's listen to it, and that's how we met. And when we were talking, I was like, how did you hear of me? Because he just called me out of the blue. To this day, I don't even know how he got my fucking number, man. It's just like, I'm sitting there one night at home, doing my thing, and phone rings. Is Ryan there? It's like, this is Ryan. He goes, this is Devin Townsend. I'm like, fuck off. Like, really? And yeah, and then he said, I want you to try out for my band. And I was just like, whoa. Like my life changed overnight. And
Yeah.
but what Devin said to me was he talked to all these different people and he finally talked to Gene. And he said every single person he asked, they'd mention a couple names, but he said your name came up every single time.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, you got to try this RVP guy. He's nuts. His band God Awakens Petrified, the crazy experimental metal band, and he's just super creative and, or whatever they would say. I don't know what they said, but they all said, you got to try out RVP. And
Right.
so he said, and even Gene mentioned your name. And I was just
Right.
like, wow, what an honor, right? And yeah, and that's how I got that gig, was just, you know what? I played in so many different bands. I played in a rock band, I played in a metal band, I played in a pop band. I played in everything. So I was everywhere around the Vancouver scene. So
Right.
people were just like, this guy can do anything,
Right.
So Devin's like, okay, I got to try him. And I stepped into a rehearsal. So this is how it went. We step into a rehearsal space, first tryout, and that's it. He starts playing a riff. I start jamming to the riff. We're jamming on it. And I'm just improvising, just making up shit on the spot. He stops the jam. He looks and he goes, you're the guy. And I'm like,
Right.
what? I'm like, we haven't even played your shit yet. Like, we haven't even jammed any songs. And he's just like, no. He goes, the way your connection with the snare drum and how confident you are, and you just jumped in, you're the guy. And I got the gig.
Ah, nice.
That's how it went,
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
So how basically was your life before that, and how did it kind of change from that moment regarding your drumming career and
That
life?
changed everything. That's that's how I that's how I got to where I am now. And I make a living off music now. And I made a living off music with being in the band. When we first started touring with Devin, we were still holding down jobs and stuff. Devin Townsend Band wasn't, one of those things where I get to quit my job now. It's like we still held down a job because it wasn't as big. But when Devin Townsend Project came out, like, yeah, that we definitely were not working day jobs. It was like that was it. It was
Right.
that I would do teaching on the side when we come home from tour just to make more money and stuff. But yeah, it changed my life, and
Yeah.
it's like I'm very grateful and I'm very thankful for everything that I did with Devin. And I think I'm grateful I met him. It's like without Devin choosing me and keeping me, playing music with him for the better part of 16 years, it's like I possibly wouldn't be here right now. Maybe I would have succeeded with one of my bands and got signed or whatever, but that's the route that I went. That's the history of it. And I'm very grateful for Devin and that he chose me. And to this day, it's like I'm the longest serving drummer he's ever had, so and I take a lot of pride in that, and I learned a lot of incredible things by playing with him. He's an incredible artist in so many different ways. And, lots of people reference him as a genius, and I understand why. And I would go as far as to say that too. It's like the guy's incredible. And even with drumming, he understands it. He's not a good drummer. I've seen him drum. And if you hear this, Devin, I'm telling the truth. It's actually on the Safe Zone DVD where he plays some drums. It's hilarious, right? But he has an incredible understanding of it. So there's tons of ideas on those albums where, of course, I'm playing his ideas. He'd give me a basic idea of how he'd want it to go, and then I'd embellish and put my thing on it. And then albums like Transcendence or other albums like Grace, I came up with that drum beat and showed it to him, and he loved it, and it became part of the song. He was always cool as well as to let us embellish and be ourselves as musicians. So it was a fantastic experience.
And you were something like in your early 20s when joining?
No, I actually got the gig with Devin when I was 29.
Okay, all right. So at that point, you had, as you mentioned, you were playing a lot of live shows, but still, did you have still in mind that you might be, or had you decided already at that point that drumming is going to be your career? Or was it basically still a little bit on the side of?
That's a good question, because I was really starting to wonder, fuck, am I gonna do this for a living, or is this just gonna be a weekend thing and I have to hold down a job, and that's how my life's gonna be, And it was funny too, because I'd talked to my mom, and she said, you got to think about something in the back in case music doesn't pan out, and we kind of had this agreement in a way where we're like, by the time I turn 30, if it doesn't happen, and I shit you not, man, like our first professional gig with Devin Townsend Band was like a couple days after my 30th birthday in Atlanta, Georgia, for Prog-Power. And I was just like, holy shit, that's cutting it close. But it's like, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure, man. It's like you don't know until you get signed or you get picked up by a band, right? And it just so happened that that summer in 2002, Devin hit me up and asked me to join his band, and that just changed my life.
Exactly. Did you have some you didn't go to Berkeley's or MIT's or these schools, or how was your route to to learn the craft of drumming? Did you have some mentors, or what was kind of like the path which kind of got you to that level that then Devin wanted you to?
As far as that goes, when I started drumming when I was 10 years old, I'll give you the whole meal deal here. Started drumming when I was 10. By the time I was 12, I earned my first drum kit, and I got my drum kit, and I had lessons for the first couple years, first 2-3 years. And then from that point on, I was just basically self-taught. I was introduced to Neil Peart, and he was in an indirect way my drum teacher, because I just learned everything, every Rush album I could get my hands on, right? And of course my technical playing just got better and better because I had a foundation of rudiments, and all the important foundations of drumming was taught to me at a very young age. And then I just ran with it, right? And then I'm grateful for that too, because it wasn't, not that lessons are bad because I'm a teacher, but lessons, they can definitely direct you in a specific way. And that's why when I teach, I try to have a lot of improvisation and encourage my students to be themselves. I don't want them to be a carbon copy of me or their influences. And I say all the time, just be yourself. So I took that road, right? And then when it started going through the scene, I got out of high school at 17 years old, and I was living in a small town of 50,000 people. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to make my career happen here. I have to move to Vancouver. So I moved from Vancouver Island, a place called Poederooyen, at 17 years old. No experience of living in a city of millions, to Vancouver, and started cutting my teeth in the scene, and there was a massive transition, man. It's like a shock when you go from 50,000 to millions, and then you're in this vicious scene where it's just like cutthroat. Every band's stomping over each other to get to the top and get known, or you know, you're fighting for gigs, you're fighting to get that slot, you know, or open up for a band that's coming through town. Like, it's no different in any other city, right? So what I did is I just kept my head down though. And I think the reason why I was known and why I got known is I wasn't a one-trick pony. And this is very important for musicians, drummers, it doesn't matter, just musicians in general. This is the advice I give you, and this is universal, and it never changes, is if you put all your eggs in one basket, you're going to limit yourself. So I didn't limit myself. What I did was I played pop music. I played metal music. Man, I even did sessions for country music and punk music, which isn't my thing. But I just learned those various styles and I did those different things, right? And so when it came time to getting into bands, it wasn't a problem. I played in a bunch of different stuff. Then I thought, well, I'm going to start teaching because that'll get my name out there. So I started teaching. Then I'm like, man, I should start doing sessions because that introduces me to producers. It introduces me to other bands. Maybe I'll land a gig with a record label who needs a drummer. So I started doing sessions, and then all this stuff was happening. And, you know, come like 12 years later of me cutting my teeth on the Vancouver music scene, I get a call by Devin Townsend because everyone was talking about me. So the thing that can be learned, and that was my journey to it. I didn't go to MIT. I didn't go to Berkeley. You know, it's like I did a drum solo actually in high school, and I won a scholarship, you know, but it's like I never took advantage of it or anything. It would have been so friggin' expensive, right? So I didn't do it. I was just like, I'm going to take my chances and do it this way. And it paid off. And you know what? It's like, it's funny. I've taught a bunch of students. One of my drum students from years and years and years ago is Ash Pearson from Revocation. And he's done stuff in Drumeo as well. And he's a phenomenal drummer. He's incredible. And he used to be my drum student. And look at what he did. And I mentored him. I taught him. And I actually introduced him to all the strapping young lad guys because he was my drum tech for a little bit for a few of those shows. And he got to know that scene. He did the exact same thing. I'm like, dude, just get out there and play with anyone, do anything, whatever. He did the same thing in his own way, same path, no surprise. He's touring the world. He's got endorsements. He's doing all the same stuff I've done. You know, so if that's the advice that someone can walk away from this podcast, that's it. Is just don't be a one-trick pony. Just try a little bit of everything. Be diversified. You know what I mean? It's like, but most importantly, be yourself along the way. You know, it's like there's no use trying to be your influence because they already exist. And my dad gave me great advice. Here's a little side story for you. When I was growing up, my first studio thing, and we started recording songs and stuff, I came back and it's so exciting. I listened to it. He's like, wow, you know, you really sound like Neil Peart, you know? And I'm like, yes, yeah, that's awesome, right? And he's like, no, it's not awesome. That's terrible. And I'm like, what? I'm like, are you kidding me, Dad? That's like, he's one of the best drummers that ever lived. What are you talking about, man? You know, and he's like, Ryan, he's like, the only person who's going to sound as good or even be better than Neil Peart is Neil Peart. So be RVP, be Ryan Van Poederooyen, come up with your own thing. And then you know what? You're going to own that. And that's when you're going to get noticed. Because if you're just a carbon copy of who your favorite drummer is, they already exist. So be something different. And I never forgot that. And that changed my whole view and my whole path towards getting that Devin Townsend gig eventually. I never knew I'd drum for a guy named Devin Townsend. You know, it's like not in a million years. Even when I knew who he was, I was like, oh, it's got Gene Hoglan. It's like, it didn't even enter my mind that it would drum for him. And then one day he's calling me and I'm like, what the hell? You know? But that's the thing is I carved out my own niche. And that's what every musician should do is like have your influences, you know, borrow from them, make it your own. Don't try to be them. That's it.
You said you did take a couple of those lessons. Like, do you think that still had a factor, or were you able to kind of like on that very early age still grasp something from those lessons, you know, regarding like how to hold stick and these kind of techniques which help you out?
100%. And I'm very grateful for those teachers. There's a teacher, Frank Buxton is his name. I'm going to do some shout outs here. And Greg Bowman was another one that taught me. those two guys, I'm very grateful for because they taught me the fundamentals. And if there's one thing that I think every musician should do, learn the fundamentals. You know, there's guys like Eddie Van Halen that claim they never had lessons and stuff. Of course, that can happen. And like he's my favorite all-time guitar player, him and Dimebag, right? But at the same time, you know, the fundamentals of any instrument are so important. So I learned those things at a very young age. And I'm very grateful for that because, you know, it's like when I got my Modern Drummer interview or different drum magazines, or people do you know, they watch my videos and then they comment on it. Those types of things that, you know, I always get those compliments. Oh, he has really solid technique. You can see this guy has great technique when he plays. And I take pride in that. You know, it's like technique isn't everything, but it's definitely a foundational tool that you need in order to progress. And if you have those tools in your toolbox, the world's your oyster, man. You can do whatever you want. You can expand wherever you want to go, right? So even when I teach my students, I make sure the fundamentals, which are universal with any drummer, they got those. Learn stick control. That's my favorite book of all time. Like, learn stick control, learn your rudiments, get all that stuff down, and I'll show you how you can apply it into drum beats, drum fills, odd time signatures, all these different things, right? And they all pick it up. Next, I just had my, what is he? 8 years old. He's finished YYZ perfectly, and now he's learning this spirit of radio. It's insane, man. And he's already learned Failure from Devin Townsend Project. And I had to get his feet up at the end of the song because I'm like, this is fast, buddy. Kid's nailing it. It's mind-blowing. And I'm like, I wasn't even drumming at 8 years old. And
Yeah.
here's this kid just nailing this stuff. So yeah, I think, you know, when it comes back to what you're saying, I'm very grateful for those earlier lessons because I truly believe I wouldn't be the drummer I am today if it wasn't for those earlier lessons.
I bet, yeah, exactly. And to kind of get started with that instead of kind of like, you know, having a fist kind of super tight grip and then trying to fix it and learn it, like relearn it kind of like 2 years. Like that's a really fortunate thing that you found a really good teachers in the very early on to kind of like set you on the right path. And then sounds like you were still pretty dedicated and determined, you know, because you moved to the big city and like you kind of had still that kind of like thing in your back of your mind that this is going to be potentially at least your career, and you were super serious about it. And
yeah. And you know what? That's the thing. You mentioned something that's very important. You have to be prepared. Preparation is everything. You know, it's like you never know when your golden chance is going to come along. So be prepared at all times. And that's the thing. I practice my ass off. I was on my kid all the time. You know, I still practice. You know, it's like that, but I practice because I love it. You know, and it's like I do things on the drums because I truly love what I do. You know, and I have lots of followers who like what I do. So it's just a win-win situation, right? But man, you got to love your instrument. You know what? I always have said this: do what you love and love what you do, and you're going to live your best life. And that's not just with drumming. That's with anything, man. You know, if you're doing what you love a little bit each day, it might not be your job right now. And you love what you do each and every single day, just little things. I love golfing, man. I go out and I golf once a week with my buddies because I can. I'm not trying to be a pro golfer, but it makes me happy. I drive my Dodge Challenger RT, you know, and it's like, it's a fun car to drive. Every time I get in it, I'm happy. I listen to music that makes me happy, you know, and, you know, I go for a walk every day because I live in a very beautiful place. And all those things are connected, and they really do bring you to where you want to be in your life. And I truly believe, man, if you do what you love and love what you do as much as you possibly can every single day, things work out for you. It's just that. And I say to my friends, I say to my family and all that, and I just be like, you know, it's really weird. Things just seem to work out for me. But I'm constantly working. I'm constantly putting myself in a position of loving what I do, but being happy and being prepared. So all those things, they are preparation. You're preparing yourself for the life you want to live. So if you can constantly do that day in and day out, it's crazy. Things just seem to work.
Yeah, and I'm glad, of course, that it worked for you. Of course, it might not work out for everybody, and of course, but again, you were prepared, and that's the thing that you need to be. Even if you get the chance, if you're not prepared, you're not able to capitalize it.
That's it. And you know what? The tie-in, like I was saying, is like if you truly love your instrument, you will be prepared. There's just because you're always playing, you know. But if you're not always playing and you're just like, oh, I'd love to be a rock star, you know, but you're not prepared for that opportunity when it arises, that's where that correlation, it needs to be there. You know, it's like preparation is because you love that instrument, you know. So yeah, and it also ties into what I said in the past. It's just like don't paint yourself into the corner with one style or genre or technique or, you know, oh, I can do blast beats really good. Oh, can you groove? Oh, you know, it's like just diversify. See what the instrument can offer you. You know, there's so many different ways you can go. And I always see it with my young students too. They're just like, oh, I just want to do blast beats or I want to do double kick or time signatures. I'm like, there's way more to drumming than that, you know, and it's vice versa. I just want to groove. Well, there's way more to drumming than that. It doesn't matter which way you choose. There's way more to drumming or any instrument than that, right? So yeah, preparation's key though. There's no question.
We could still talk a little bit about the Accelerated Evolution album. So was it you recorded in the same studio as then the Transcendence? Was it so?
Yes.
It's a pretty big hall.
Yeah,
the drums are recorded.
It's a beautiful studio, man. I just finished recording there recently. I did a thing with the 10 Ways guys, which is Mike Young and Dave Young, who played in Devin Townsend Band. And we just finished recording something really cool there. But yes, Accelerated Evolution, Transcendence. There's a few albums that we recorded there, man. Yeah.
You go to studio there in Vancouver.
Yep. Yes. It's amazing. It's called the Armory. It's beautiful.
Right. And then we could still later talk about the Transcendence sessions more. But what I also picked, and which you also mentioned, that Devin used to like have, I guess this like I guess even more of these like two-pack tours, like a Strapping Young Lad and then Devin Townsend solo thing.
Yeah, Devin Townsend Band and Strapping Young Lad toured together. My first major tour I ever did was of Europe, and it was about 5 or 6 weeks. And it was Strapping Young Lad, Devin Townsend Band, and Zimmer's Hole. And man, that was a fun tour, man. And that was my first experience in a tour bus, you know, traveling all over Europe, playing these crazy shows. And yeah, that was it.
I saw some footage also. I guess you visited at least some cameo role in some Strapping Young Lad song as well. At least I saw some footage where you were playing, I guess, some Strapping Young Lad song. Was it like a... Yeah, I think so. Or then I mischecked it, but... Okay,
I don't think I did because Gene was on that tour.
Yeah, but I guess you were just like making some like a cameo visit, but...
Oh, you know what? It could have been like sometimes Dev would go into like... You never know what you're going to get with Devin. You know, live, he could just go into anything, right? And he may have jumped into like a strapping song and I might have just started playing along or something. But
okay.
There's so much footage that people tell me about. I'm like, oh, that happened?
Right. Yeah. But so Gene Hoglan was playing the drums on that tour for the Strapping Young Lad. Was there something, did you pick something from him during that tour? The way he was like performing or like being a drummer on tour?
Yeah, you know what? You just have to watch Gene and you're like, oh, that's fucking incredible. You know, it's like, I learned so much and I picked his brain and he's just a gentle giant. You know, he's an amazing drummer and just a really, really humble, nice guy. And you know, it's like I learned a lot. But the thing I really took from Gene's drumming is just like when I came in a Devin gig, everything was kind of intense with me. It was just like, okay, nail the groove, you know, get her down. And when I watched Gene play, he's just so relaxed. Just like drumming. There's a shit coming out that sounds like 3 men are doing the drum parts. And it's just Gene. You know what I mean? And then you watch how he's doing it. It's effortless and it's controlled and it flows. And there's just this, it's almost as weird as this sounds, elegant. You know what I mean? But it's fucking metal, man. You know, and it's just, intense and crazy shitstorm. The song is nuts, right? And you just watch him doing it, just like, God damn, right? So, and I would pick Gene's brain while we were on tour and stuff. But one thing that I really focused on, I always took a lot of pride in groove, but I think probably one of the biggest things that I took from Gene and really wanted to apply to my drumming was that feel, was a groove, just groove hard. Doesn't matter if I'm doing insane shit like Ziltoid or whatever, there's got to be a groove in it, you know? And lots of people, drum magazines, drum interviews, and all that, fans alike, drummers, that's what I hear a lot about when I read stuff about me. Is just like, oh yeah, Ryan's a groove master. He really has that groove. And I can really attribute a lot of that to Gene because, or that, not attribute it, but just I picked up on that. And I was like, yeah, I got to be less intense and I got to be more pocket, you know?
Yeah.
And I was, you know, it just developed more and more. And I always had pocket, but I was also a very precise player because I listened to Rush and Primus, you know, and my biggest metal influence of all time was Pantera. So there was also groove because Vinnie Paul grooved like no one else, you know, like
True.
he was incredible. He was another big influence for me. And so, yeah, but when I saw Gene doing that, I was just like, yeah, I want to add that to my playing, my own version of that.
Yeah, that can teach really well, especially on tour, doing multiple shows, seeing other drummer on the tour, like if it happens to be a great drummer, like watching and picking something from that can be a really like a changing your style as it did for you as well.
Yeah, and I've been lucky, man. Like it's just endless, the amazing, you know, drummers that I've gone to tour with. Matt Garska, you know, it's like Matt Halpern. I had the honor of touring on my first big tour with Devin Townsend Project, the legendary Sean Reinhardt, you know, rest in peace. Such an amazing drummer from Cynic and Death. And, you know, like the list just goes on and on. Bard Kolstad, you know, from oh my God, you know the band.
The
Lepers.
Lepers.
Such an incredible drummer, you know, and I chill with these, I'm friends with these guys, you know, but yeah, every night I'm just watching. I just watch them drum, you know. You know, we did a bunch of tours with Meshuggah and I'm very good friends with like Thomas Hack and Jens Kidman. Jens and I, we talk every week on FaceTime. It's never stopped. We've been doing it for years, right? But Thomas, to watch him drum, just close his eyes, and he reminds me of Gene in the sense he's nothing like Gene. They're two different drummers, but he would just sit there and close his eyes and just groove, man. Like his pocket is ridiculous. And the guy is just such a great drummer. And he's one of the funniest people I know too. He's a really funny guy. But talk about a drummer. So like being able to watch all these drummers was an opportunity for me to learn. And each drummer I would pick up stuff from, you know, and I'm beyond grateful for the amazing drummers that I got to tour with. Because when you're playing for Devin Townsend, you're only going to be billed with insane drummers, you know? So it was pretty wild to be able to get to know all these guys, but more importantly, learn from them. Just sit side stage and watch. And there were a bunch of times I'd just sit behind the kit, man, and just sit there and watch them drum, you know?
Exactly. One thing I also remember, you did some kind of like a live recording also for that album in some studio. It's on YouTube. I'm just thinking like what was it for, if you remember the recording? But it's a really great live, like really nice.
Yeah, that you're talking about the Accelerated Evolution.
Yeah. I think on that era, like you did a bunch of songs. There's like there's a nice set list as well. There's at least the Earth. Was it Earth song?
Earth Day's in there.
Earth Day, yeah. And like other really good songs and really nice, like the studio live.
Yeah, that was at a studio called Greenhouse Studios. That's no longer operating anymore. Another very famous studio in Vancouver, and a lot of big records were recorded there. But yeah, we recorded that in a studio called Greenhouse Studios, and that was during, I believe that was between the Accelerated Evolution and Synkestra records when we recorded that. So yeah, we were playing a little bit of everything, but Synkestra wasn't recorded yet, but we did it in between, and it became that's a very hard CD or DVD to find. It's only been released on DVD, and it
Oh,
was a package deal with an album.
exactly.
So,
That was what I was thinking. That might have been some like bonus thing on some album or something.
it was a bonus, and it's very hard to find. There's some footage. I think someone's uploaded the whole thing to
Yeah,
YouTube, whatever.
it is there. I just recently watched it. I remember watching it maybe like 10 years ago, and I really been like was vibing it a lot. And now again watched it a little bit.
Yeah.
We are doing this, and it's a really great live. I will surely link that to this podcast.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I'd like to kind of revisit that because, we're just, and that's that in that recording is when Devin gets on the drums. We all switch instruments and play Truth, and
Okay.
Devin's the drummer and I'm the keyboard player. And it's funny because I just keep on hitting the samples. There's just explosions everywhere.
Right.
It's pretty funny, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, still of course have to mention like I think maybe I don't know, could it be at least one of the top songs on that record, the Deadhead song on that Accelerated Evolution thing. Really, really special song, and so there's somehow so much of like a feeling of love in that song somehow, like really emotional.
Oh, Devin, I think that may be one of his most famous, if not the most famous song he's written out of his solo stuff.
Right.
That's
exactly.
just, we pretty much played that song in every concert we ever did. It was just such a big song for him. And there is a lot of emotion. I know it's a very emotional song for Devin, and you can hear it in his vocals. You can hear it just in the lyrics and his playing. It's just a beautiful song.
It is. We actually have to mention we actually played it live as well. We had this tour, my band with this Master Plan band here in Finland, and we played it in Helsinki in this On the Rocks, which is actually quite near to that old like Tuska Park area. On the Rocks bar. Played it there, and it happened to be so that we had decided that we are going to be doing a cover of that song because we had like a guest vocalist who was able to do this like Devin kind of like vocals as well. So we had that thing in mind, but then also there happened this event that like our very dear friend just happened to die at that time when we were rehearsing it. And I remember like when I heard that news that day, we were rehearsing also for those live shows. I went to play the Deadhead, this drum studio which I built that day, and I was like playing and crying on the way, like because it's such an emotional track, and of course we had to then dedicate the song to this lost friend of ours.
Well, that's a beautiful story, man. And you know what? That's the beautiful thing about music is we can connect to it in so many different ways, and we feel things through music, and it's funny because a lot of the times metal bands or progressive metal bands, it's just like, oh, it's all about hate. And it's like, nah, that's actually one of the greatest things I love about Devin and continue to love about him. And all the albums he did after Devin Townsend Project is that guy there's no filter on him. He is 100% vulnerable with his music, which is a beautiful thing. He is literally doing what he feels. And I think you're always going to get the best music from anyone if you don't write it for someone. If you're trying to write music so it'll apply to a certain crowd, you know what? Versus the guy like Devin, who writes for himself first, and it's not being selfish. You're actually getting his best work because it's genuine. He's being vulnerable with it. That's Deadhead. And I think that's why someone like yourself can connect with it, why you had those emotions and all that, is because you understood it. You were connected to it. It had deep meaning to you. And, the fact that your friend, a dear friend, had passed away and that you could dedicate it to him, of course, I'd fucking cry too. It's like there's a connection, and that's the beauty of music, man. And that's why, it ties back to what we were talking about earlier on. Be you. Be yourself. Just do it. And you will, I truly feel you'll always develop, write, and put out your best music and your best playing if you're just true to yourself. So that's a great story though, man. I'm sorry to hear about your friend, but you know what? To dedicate that and to have those feelings while you're playing is a beautiful thing, man. It's a connection.
And it was really a perfect song for that occasion. Perfect song for that occasion.
Yeah, it's a very emotional song.
It is for sure. Yeah, I have to still ask about like regarding being a drummer for Devin. Was there something basically particular? Because of course everybody might be focusing on different things, but was there certain things like how Devin was like regarding drums, or for example playing live? Was there certain things which he kind of like emphasizes or wants? What is the most important thing, or like one of the most important things?
Dev really loves consistency, timing, and he wants to represent his music like the album. And it's all right live. We would change a couple things, make it fresh. If it was just the same thing over for 10 years, it's like, let's change it up a bit. But the thing that he really wanted is he wanted to go on stage and not have to worry if his band member is going to play the same drum fill every night or if he's going to change up the beat. And that's the thing about me. I was always a drummer, even before Devin. When I showed up and played, I played my shit like the record. If anything changed, yeah, maybe you embellish fills a little bit, you change, but the core beat, the changes, the shots, the timing, the precision, that night after night after night. And I know I've seen interviews with Devin where he talks about various drummers and he just said, yeah, Ryan, I can show up every night and I know that Phil's going to be there. I know he's going to play that beat. I know the changes will be the same. And he really loved that with all of his drummers, so the expectations, I think, of what you're talking about that Devin would like to see from his band members was that is guys just show up and play the music like it is with the album. You can have a little bit of free range. You can be yourself. Maybe you'll bend that note a little bit differently, but that's you. Cool, whatever. Or you change the fill. Like a lot of my fills would evolve, like Failure or Super Crush. Those fills, if you listen to the album version and then you listen to the version on Retinal Circus or live at Royal Albert Hall, yeah, they're different. You know what I mean? But they evolved. Some of them are the same, but it evolved into that. And Devin didn't mind that. There were lots of times he's like, oh, it's like, would have been cool to have that fill on the album, but that's it, right? Everything evolves, so, but yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is Devin really, he liked it to be like the record. And we played to Click Track Live and all the samples would be going off just like the record. So we wanted to provide that experience, not only for him, but of course the fans like pay to come see us live.
Another Devin Townsend band album which you did, which really resonated to me, which I also shared about this thing that I was, I made this like a filming photography trip to Iceland. I remember, blasting with that, driving with that car around that insane like a planetary different like landscapes. I don't know, have you been to Iceland? But that was like a perfectly fitting, like really the perfect like grandiose soundtrack for that trip.
Yeah, Transcendence is a beautiful record. I've never been to Iceland. I've always wanted to see it. One day I hope to get there, but I've seen pictures. I have friends who've been there, and I can see how Transcendence would be a great soundtrack because Transcendence is a very epic sounding record.
Exactly. There's this at least some kind of documentary of that Transcendence session you had in studio, and where you were recording in this, in the big live room. Yep. And then it was produced, I guess, with or engineered with Adam Nolly.
Yep.
And I think at least in the documentary there was at some point mentioned that you were tuning the drums, I guess, to the different keys of every song. Or how was that? Were all the like toms and bass drums and snares tuned differently, or what was that kind of approach?
It was more the toms, the snare and kick drum. We kept pretty similar throughout. We did change the snare a bit. The kicks not once. They were always the same.
Right.
And yeah, it was just an idea. I was tuning my kit and Adam, like Nolly came in and we kind of I'm very particular with my tuning. I need my drums to sound good. And so then we would start tuning. He's like, oh, what if we tuned it to this? And it was kind of matching, and so we started going into that and trying it. It was super interesting. It was super fun. There's a lot of work because, in between takes and stuff, we'd be changing tunings or doing whatever. But it's mainly the toms that we did that. And that was Nolly who really came up with that idea. and I just went with it. You know, it's like I'm really good with tuning, and he is too. So we kind of combined on that, and a lot of the times when he was hearing a certain thing, I'd just be like, "Have at her, man." You know, as long as it's in tune, I'm happy. You know, and
Yeah.
Nolly's incredible. He's such a great person to work with, very knowledgeable of every instrument. So it was a really fun experience to work with him. But yeah, that was definitely his idea, and obviously him and Deb probably talked about it. So I'm sure it was Deb was involved. Deb's involved in everything. You know, it's like in the end, Dev always had the final say, right? So we just show up and make sure we're prepared and made sure our instruments were good, and then we hit record.
We talked earlier about the Tuska festival things. Do you know any like Finnish musicians or drummers, or did you even tour with Devin with some Finnish bands?
Well, as far as Kai Heito, how do you?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like I became friends with him. What an incredible drummer. But this was before Nightwish days, you know?
Right.
And then I'm drawing a blank. I can't believe it. Children of Bottom's drummer.
Jaska Raatikainen.
Yeah. What a great guy. What an awesome drummer. And you know, those guys would we did a tour with them too in America, and
Okay.
you know, we're friends with those guys. They're just such great dudes. But those two drummers, they really stick out when it comes to Finnish drummers.
Right.
I did a drum clinic with Kai too. There's some.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, in Finland, and
when?
and that was amazing, man. It was super fun because we were both Pearl guys. So yeah, so like
When was that?
yeah, I can't remember. It was at a music store. It was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah. That was way back when. That was like 2011, I think.
Yeah, I also took, I think around 2011, 2012, took also a couple of lessons with Kai. He has this like he's offering them at his home, you know.
Yep.
So I spent this one weekend, slept over there, and had this like a double bass technique 2 days, like intense.
Nice.
Of course, it was really good.
Yeah, he's an incredible drummer, man.
Yeah.
I love watching him play, and just the sweetest guy.
Yeah.
Such a nice guy.
Right. Do you remember what comes to your mind? Like, what were the coolest shows you did, or maybe tours during the Devin times?
I get asked that a lot, and I have to say, I think my favorite tour of all time was the one we did with Fear Factory in Europe. It was 2 months long. Now it's so funny because we have a love-hate relationship with that. It was the most fun tour I've ever done, and I loved it. But it's also the most tiring, and just like when we were finished that tour, you know, I remember Devin was saying to management, "We're never fucking doing that again." It's like 2 months, no, you know, it's like 4 or 5 weeks at tops. That's it, and after that, that's all we ever did was 4 or 5 weeks, you know, and but it was demanding. But that was like my most fun tour. I had so much fun, and Matt DeVries, the bass player of Fear Factory at the time, and then Burton, the singer, the three of us, we would just get out on all of our days off, and we just go find local pubs like holes in the wall, and we just want to try like the local beer. What do you got? We don't want the normal shit. We want something that's just specific to this city. So we ended up calling, I think we were being called like the Three Musketeers, because we'd just go out and we'd try all these different things, and I had so many great memories with those guys. I brought home probably like 20 Starbucks collectible mugs, and that was my thing, you know, and it was just the most fun tour. I have so many fond memories of that tour. But as far as like my favorite show, there's a lot of like really memorable favorite shows out there, but I always tip my hat to Royal Albert Hall, because that's got to be one of the most iconic gigs on the face of this planet. And I'd say a close second would be Red Rocks Amphitheater. Right. That was pretty wild to play that with Opeth and Gojira. Like, come on, what a bill, man!
Nice lineup.
That's another drummer that was really fun to watch, and we did a bunch of tours with Gojira, you know, and or a couple at least, and to watch Mario drum was super fun. Like, he's just his own entity, right? Like, he's amazing. But Royal Albert Hall will always be special for me. It was very special too because it was shot for a Blu-ray. My favorite band of all time is a lot of people don't know this, that my favorite band of all time is the Beatles, because I grew up around it, and I loved it. and it just reminds me of my childhood and just positive memories, right? And everyone's surprised. They're like, what? You know, I thought it'd be Rush, you know, and Rush is definitely up there, but it'd be the Beatles. And the fact that the Beatles were known for playing Royal Albert Hall, it's in their lyrics, you know, and so when I finally was like, oh my God, I'm stepping on stage and I'm playing Royal Albert Hall. My mom flew from Canada, and, you know,
Nice.
all of our family and friends, they got the Royal boxes, so those suites, you know, and
Oh,
mom had never, she'd been to Royal Albert Hall before because my stepdad's English, you know, from the UK, but they never had a box. Like, that's pretty elite, right? And expensive, I guess, if you want one of those. And so they got one of those, and they got to watch me drum at Royal Albert Hall. At the end of the gig, I brought her up onto stage, and she got to see what I got to see, you know, and it is pretty wild, man. It was a very special gig for so many different reasons, and so that will always be my number one, you know, to this day.
right. You also did this one symphony orchestra thing, at least one, maybe
Yeah,
others well
up
as well,
there.
but yeah,
Yeah, and that was such an amazing show, and that's definitely up in my top 5 too, playing Plovdiv, Bulgaria. And you know, it's like we had fireworks going off and flames and the symphony and a choir. It was, and then we played all of Ocean Machine, which is my favorite album from Devin of all time, is Ocean Machine. Out of all the albums I played on, up to the albums he's done, The Moth, everything that he's done, Ocean Machine's my favorite. Just, I love that record. From start to finish, it's perfect, you know? So we played that in its entirety, you know, and it's on Blu-ray for people to watch, you know, and what an awesome moment that was, you know. That was a pretty monumental gig too. It's you know what, Roy Albert, I will say that's my number one. But man, the spot for number two, it could be Plovdiv, it could be Red Rocks, it could be the Retinal Circus, you know, like there were just so many cool gigs playing with Meshuggah at Brixton Academy in England. That was wild, man. You know, like I've been lucky to play so many cool gigs. Sonosphere with Metallica. We played the Black Album stage. You know, like how cool is that? The Snake Pit's right in front of you. It's like I remember watching Metallica in '91 or whatever it was, and seeing the Snake Pit and them, and you know, and now I'm playing that exact stage. It was wild, man.
was it of that symphony orchestra thing? Did you need to somehow like adapt the way you were kind of playing regarding that, or some like a monitoring, or like, you know, regarding how loud the drums were on stage or something like this?
Yeah, well, I was off to the side and I had plexiglass around me so it wouldn't bleed into the orchestra, the symphony
Right.
instruments, right? And it was weird because, yeah, you want to be very controlled. You know, I didn't want to be hitting so hard that, you know, it was bleeding. So it was definitely an adjustment. But once it was funny, once you hit record and you walk out and it's live and there's cameras everywhere, I just zone that shit out. And I'm
Yeah.
just like focused on nailing the parts.
Smashed it with complete force.
But you know what I didn't hit? You can see I'm a little more reserved in that Blu-ray. I'm
Right.
definitely not slamming as hard and whatnot because we had rehearsals, I think 2 or 3 rehearsals with the symphony before that show. So I learned to adjust, you know, while
Right.
that was happening. And yeah, it was pretty wild, man. But that show is really unique though, because it was September 22nd or something like that. I can't remember. It's around there. It was late September. And dude, it was fucking cold, man. Holy shit. Like, and it was in By Your Command. I started playing that song, which I play a million times, and my left hand started to cramp from how cold it was. And I warmed up before, like my normal warm up, but I wasn't expecting that. And even sound check, it was day. You know, it was warm outside. It was like it was a nice day, and I was just like, oh man. And you can even see at the end of By Your Command, we nailed it. But you can see we finished the song and then it zooms out to the stage. And if you look at the drum kit, you can see me going like this. And I'm talking to my drum tech. I'm like, dude, my fucking hand is cramping, man. Holy shit. And I was there, and it felt bad because there's a point in that Blu-ray. You see Devin, we got a standing ovation for the song. The crowd went nuts. And the end part, is a pretty crazy drum part, right? And I nailed it. It was awesome. I was really well rehearsed for it. And the symphony in our practice is kind of a cool side story. Whenever we finished that song, they would always clap because they're just like, whoa, that's crazy. And you could see they'd always turn and they'd watch me drum that part, right? But anyways, Devin at the end of it, live, turned to me and he's like, dude, awesome job. But I'm busy talking to my tech going, holy fuck, man, I don't know what to do. Like my hand's cramping up and my drum tech's like, I can't rub it for you. You got to play, man. It's like, it was weird. So I missed that communication with Devin. You could see it on the Blu-ray, right? I was like, bummer. It would have been a cool thing to connect with Dev there. But, crowd was appreciative and it was a very memorable show. But I'm not going to lie, that first set, the by request set or whatever, that was the toughest set of my life, man. That was a hard set to get through because there was a point where we were playing the song higher and I was like, I'm just, I don't know if I can hold my stick. And I started changing my grip and I got through it. I managed to get through it, and then luckily we had a break before we came out to do the Ocean Machine set, which definitely wasn't nearly as demanding as the first set. So I was so happy we got through that. And backstage, I had towels wrapped around my hands. I was just constantly drumming for full 25 minutes in between the break while the stage got set up. And I could feel my hand come back to normal. And then, we opened with Seventh Wave because we played the song, the album exactly in the same order as the album. We did it live, right? And I got through Seventh Wave and I was just warmed up and I felt great. And that whole set, I'm on it. Didn't feel a thing, but that first set was the worst set of my fucking life, man. It was brutal. It was so brutal. And you can see there's parts in By Your Command, that part and getting near the end part, you can see there's one clip where the Blu-ray clip, it pans to me and I'm just going, and I'm fighting it, man. You can see it. And people have even pointed it out. Is that what I'm like? Yes, that's me going, this sucks. Yeah.
You said you needed to basically change the grip. Is there a certain kind of when you're, for example, playing normal beats or something, do you have a certain kind of style of, what kind of fulcrum style you have for the grips?
So my fulcrum, so when I was playing, this is my normal fulcrum, right? Not gripping it too hard. You have the sticks there, you get that nice flick of the wrist. You have about an inch hanging out the bottom of the stick, but what was happening were these two fingers were cramping. They were literally like this. So now my fulcrum goes from this to this with these two fingers like this. And sometimes you could even see my pinky, which is a bad no-no, as every drummer knows, sticking out because just these fingers literally were cramping. And I could feel it in my wrist. It was brutal, man. So my fulcrum goes from this to like this. Everyone knows these are your anchor fingers. Yeah. You need those ghost notes, when you go to finger technique, all that. Well, finger technique, and even when I'd have to go into blast beats or anything like that, everything changed. So now my shoulders are tight. And, you'd be like, it was horrible. I was learning how to drum again mid-set, basically changing my technique and learning, how am I going to do this?
But glad you find the way. You're able to kind of muscle it through still.
Well, you want to know something? We talked about this earlier, York. We talked about preparation. I was prepared. You know what? It's like I work out. I go to the gym. I take care of myself. I have a healthy diet. Days of the show, or the night before, I don't drink. It's like I show up prepared. And Devin also really liked that about me as well. Is actually on the whole Transcendence tour, Devin and I were going to the gym together because he said, I want to start working out. I said, let's go. Because I worked out every day. So he'd seen me working out. He's like, I want to start. So we started going to the gym together for that whole tour cycle. It was really cool, man. And we connected in different ways, which was really nice, but all those things, drinking lots of water the day, all that, you can't control an outdoor show in the weather. It's like And you know what? I do remember I was thinking I should have probably drank more water too, which is key, but I did drink water. And during that set, I was slamming Gatorade water every chance I get. You can see me on the Blu-ray. I'm just drinking like fluids, fluids, fluids. Like, come on, let's go, you know. And but you know, thank God we had a 20-25 minute break in between sets.
Right.
That was
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah,
That saved you the rest of the show.
it did. It really did, man. Yeah.
At some point, then Devin decided to quit the Devin Townsend project. I guess a little bit similar kind of thing, some kind of like a shift, as you were saying, like when he wanted to like separate the strapping young lad from the solo thing.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Devin has never been shy to say that, you know, he likes playing with different people. Even Devin Townsend Project, there were several different guests on it. I didn't drum on the album Key. That was a drummer named Duris Maxwell. He's passed away now, rest in peace. He's incredible drummer, just amazing, right? But that was him on Key. Deacons, then I did all of Addicted, and then I split drum duties with Dirk Verbeuren from Megadeth and Soilwork on Deconstruction, which is a crazy record, right? You know, but then after that, I did all the rest of the Devin Townsend Project records. But and Ghost was drummed by Mike St. John, which was you know, those were the 4 earlier ones. But like he always enjoyed playing with different people, and that was the thing. And Devin Townsend Project originally was just supposed to be that. That's why he called it that. Wasn't really supposed to turn into a band, but it did so well that we just kept on putting out albums, and we kept the name Devin Townsend Project. And, you know, eventually it just came to a head. And I knew, though, is like 2015, 2016, I was like, there's a shift happening. And I was just like, and Devin would talk about it that, I don't know, I might need a break. And to me, that was translating like he's gonna drop this at some point. And, you know, even Brian Waddell and I, Beeve, we started writing music together because we just like the same type of bands and stuff, and it ended up being a band called Imonolith, which is a whole different story. But we started writing that music in 2015 because we kind of knew Dev was going to pull the plug at some point, you know. And you know what? It's like you just don't know when that's going to happen. So again, preparation. You know, it's like I did lots of drum clinics. I did lots of lessons and all that. And I branded myself as a drummer because when that happened, I didn't want to go back to a regular day job. So I just worked really hard at branding myself as a drummer. And that's why I still make a living completely off drumming is because of all that branding I did, because I knew he would eventually do that. And when he did, it was weird. I'll never forget. We finished the tour, and then our very final tour was with Clutch in the States. And we finished that tour, and about 8 days after that, he called us all. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm putting DTP on ice. Now, when it happened, you know, you're kind of like, holy fuck, it's happening. He's doing his shift like he did with Strapping, like he did with Devin Townsend Band, like he did with everything he's done. And we're just like, whoa, like, even though you try to prepare yourself, you're not prepared for it, you know? So it happened. And I remember when I talked to him, I was just like, okay, wow, man, I get it. You know, it's like you want to do your thing. And I was just like, you know, thank you for all the years that we were able to do this with you. You know, it's like, it's been a hell of a ride, man. You know, I think all of us, actually, I know all of us were very surprised by his decision because Transcendence was like, we were getting big, man. Starting to headline festivals and, you know, like we were getting big. You know, it was starting to really change over. And I think we were all surprised that he was going to call it then, you know, because we all thought, man, we do another record. This is going to be like, we're going to be playing some pretty cool shit and doing some really big stuff, you know, and unfortunately it never materialized. He thought it was the right time to do it. And, you know, that's him. It's called the Devin Townsend Project. You know, we were just the supporting cast. We were hired guns. Even though it was, you know, people look at it as a band, you know, we were just paid salaries and that was that. And we showed up and we did what we were supposed to do. There's no question though that Transcendence definitely we felt more like a band because we wrote that record with Devin. So all of us have songwriting credits on it. Failure, Higher, like we all had a hand in writing music with him, which was super cool of him to allow us into his world. So that was awesome. And the experience was amazing. And I think that's why we were a little shocked. It's like, wow, Transcendence did really well. As from what I know, that was a really, you know, widely sold record. It did well all over the world. And our touring, I think, proved it. We were playing great shows, you know, so I think we were a little surprised that it was like, oh shit, we just had a really successful run with a great record. That's my favorite record I recorded for him. Hands down, it's my favorite. Not because we had songwriting. It's just, I think it's a fantastic record. Like Failure, Higher, Storm Bending. Like there's just so many good songs on that record, you know?
Exactly.
And the remake of Truth, it sounds incredible. You know, and that you have Nolly engineering and mixing. It just sounds great. And it's great songs. So yeah, you know, that's how that happened. And you know, and I supported him ever since. You know, I'm happy for him. The Moth, I remember when he was talking about writing and started writing it way, like that was when DTP started. He had this idea and he always talked about it. And now it's come out. It's come to fruition, and you know, and I think it's doing well for him. I saw the live thing and I'm just like, holy shit, this is crazy. You know, it's like, it's so cool, you know, and I'm super happy for him. That was his dream. I think that probably was the thing he wanted to make more than anything, you know, so, and he was able to do it. And now supposedly he's taking a break from touring and stuff. And you know what? He's done his career the way he wanted to do it. And, you know, I admire that. And I'm just grateful because if it wasn't for Devin and taking me in for all those albums, I recorded 8 studio albums and 4 live albums. So it's like 12 albums with him, you know, it's like that helped me carve a path that I can do what I'm doing now. And I still got a great name for myself as a drummer and I have options, you know what I mean? So I'm very grateful and extremely thankful that, you know, Devin took me on because he could use anyone, you know? So yeah, thanks again, Dev.
Are you still in touch with Devin? I guess you mentioned that you have been recording some stuff with the other members, but are you still in touch with Devin as well?
Yeah, like actually, I just finished emailing Dev the other day. We just going back and forth, and I was just like, "How you doing, man?" You know, and I was just like, "Dude, let's as friends, nothing musical, just." Let's get together and do a coffee. He's like, I'd love to do that. I haven't seen you in forever, buddy. And so, yeah, you know, we're going to hook up soon and go for a coffee. But that's more of just like friends. Hey, how's life, man? What have you been up to? Let's catch up because we'd have emails here and there, wish each other a happy birthday or something like that. Or I'd wish him a happy birthday or whatever, you know, but he's been super busy, you know, the past since DTP. Right. But yeah, so it's cool, man. Like, I'm nothing but respect for him. And like I said, I can't talk enough about the gratitude of being able to drum with him. But you know what? Like my career is far from done. I've got lots of different things on the go right now and a lot of options, some things I can't talk about, but you know, it's like whatever the next chapter is, it's nice to have choices, you know.
And did you say that you have just recently also recorded some new material with some of the other members as well?
Yeah. 10 Ways it's called, and I recorded an album with them back in, I think it's 2010, an album called The Solution. I believe you can get it on streaming, and it's progressive rock music. It's really cool stuff, and it's Dave Young from DTB, and Mike Young was the original bass player on Accelerated Evolution's Orchestra, and so it's their band, but they got me into it. And we just recorded a brand new track at that studio that you're talking about, the big one, the Armory. And all I'm going to say is, man, it's awesome. It's really cool. So that hopefully will be coming out, I hope, later this year. But it's a really cool recording. And that's just a side project. It's fun. And you know what? We get together and do something. So it was really cool. But it'll be coming out soon.
Then also you visited the Drumeo.
Yep.
You did that thing. How was that experience with the Drumeo?
Oh, it's incredible. It's like I actually had ties with Drumeo since 2017 or 18. I was going there, and I think I did 3 or 4 of their summer camps as a guest instructor. And so they'd have people come from all over the world. And I was the instructor, and I'd go there and I'd do like a 3-hour course with the students. And yeah, they had me back. And then eventually, I think it's 2021, where they're just like, hey, let's shoot some videos with you. Like, we have to. And we've been trying to set that up for years, and it finally happened. And so I went in there and I shot a bunch of my videos. And yeah, there's been talks of me coming back and doing stuff. But you know, that it's always about, you know, whether we can connect or not, you know. And I haven't talked to them in a while about that stuff. But you know what? I did it. It was fun. They're really cool people, and they treated me well. And I'm very grateful to be a part of that. And you know, whether I go back or not, it doesn't matter. It's like I did it, and I had a lot of fun. And I did those summer camps, and they're killing it. I'm so happy to see, you know, Drumeo, you know, just where they came from and to where they are now. It's like a really cool success story, and a bunch of great people. Everyone there, just great people.
Was it still? I think they have a somewhat new studio. Was it when you were there? Was it still the earlier studio, or was the new one? Okay.
Yeah, they changed the studio a couple years ago, so
yeah, something like that.
I was in the one with the famous blue background and the black. Yeah, that's when I was there, and then they changed it, I think, a couple years ago to, you know, what it is.
How big was it back then? Was it just like this live room and then the control room and maybe some lobby, or was it already still at that time multiple rooms?
It is big. It's like this huge complex, big.
Already back then already.
Yeah, back then it was still very big, and it's expanded now from but from what it was, but it was still big, man. It was like a full professional, very cool setup, and yeah, I'm just blown away with the professionalism, and like, look at what they've done. You know, they're amazing. They're a great company, and they're bringing such a cool community to the drumming world worldwide, not just in Canada, worldwide. Cool thing is that they're a 45-minute drive from where I live.
Okay,
so
right.
Yeah.
It has all the stuff which you recorded there. Is it all basically in YouTube, or was something filmed also for some gated course content, or how was that?
Yeah, basically when I went there, it was like I did some Devin Townsend stuff. I did some Imonolith stuff, which is the stuff I wrote with Beeve. And then some of my teaching stuff, my unique exercises that I came up with, like my time signature exercise, or showing how you can take you can take stick control and not just look at it as rudiments, but you can change it up so it's like you know, you can turn it into beats or drum fills. So I shared some of that stuff. You know, I didn't want to give everything. They're like, oh, you know, share your whole time signature. I put myself out of fucking business, man. So I only gave you know, parts of what I was doing, you know, and just to show that, hey, you can think about this differently. And, you know, it's my approach. Like, I came out with that time signature exercise during deconstruction because I was like learning Planet of the Apes and the Mighty Masturbator and all these crazy tunes I had to record. I was just like, holy shit. So I came up with that exercise to really get used to switching time signature stuff. So yeah, is pretty cool, man.
Yeah. Still have to talk a little bit about your, like, the live performance thing, which we already a little bit addressed, like that, as people have been giving you credits about, like, being pretty like accurate player and solid live player. Is there certain like ways how you prepare for like a new set of music for a live show, or like is there something like a certain like approaches which you think is beneficial, which you are doing in order to be able to execute it on that level?
Yeah, so how I approach those things is I'll learn a set. So let's take DTP just because it's an easy thing. It's like I'd approach a set and Devin say, oh, we're going to play Love by Strapping Young Lad. And everyone's like, what? We're going to play Strapping Young Lad? You said you never play Strapping Young Lad, you know? And now I got to learn Gene Hoglan, more Gene Hoglan parts, you know? And so, for example, with that tour, that was the 2-month-long tour with Fear Factory where
Right.
we started playing those songs. And how I would do it is I'd go through the whole set. I'm like Super Crush, you know, Truth, Earth Day. I could play those in my sleep. I played them so much at that point. But then Love, you know, or Grace, or even though I wrote the drum part, I'd still need to be up the part. So I would go through the set, and then the parts where I'm like, ooh, that I'm not transitioning well, or that could use a little bit more work, I would take mental notes of that, or not mental, I would actually write them down. And then what I would do is I'd go through the set as a warm-up, or not a warm-up, I'd go through the set at the end, but to warm up or to do stuff, I would work on the parts. Okay, the fast double kick part with Love, you know, it's like, okay, I don't feel confident with how my feet are sounding. I want that to be tight. So I'd start with a click track, and I'd bring it 50 BPM down from the actual speed of the song. And then I'd work myself up to the speed. And that would be my warm up, or transitioning your parts, or I'm not playing this part cleanly enough. That's how I would start my practice sessions. And then I would go through the whole set, including it. And I'd just do that over and over. And eventually it'd just be where I could play the set from start to finish, and I'd be just locked in. That's how I approach tours. That's how I approach recording albums for artists. And that's just how I teach, actually. I'm just like, we learn a song. I teach my students, okay, I'm going to teach you from here up to the first chorus, including the fills, the transitions, everything. When I teach students a song, they'll be like, if I teach a Rush song, they have to learn it exactly like Neil Peart. They're not can embellish or not. I don't want that. The reason why is because they're going to be exposed to things they're uncomfortable with because they don't know Neil's style. So that's going to add something to their playing. I'm not teaching them to be Neil, but I'm like, you don't know what this feels like. Now you can get to see what it's like to drum that. And then that influences in whatever way they want, and they can embellish it in their own way. So I would teach my students this method too. And I do to this very day. I always have. And then they learn the new part, but then I make them go back to the very beginning, and then they'd have to play it all the way up to the second chorus. So that's how I would learn sessions. That's how I would approach my sets live. That's what I did when I went to Drumeo, and refining how I was going to teach my, you know, time signature exercise, for example. I have to be very particular in how I say it so people can understand it, you know? So I was very meticulous that way, in the sense that preparation's everything. That's been a thing we've come back to many times in this podcast interview, is just preparation. So that's how I would prepare. I'd always make sure that I was ready. And I really feel that translated in my live playing, and why I was super consistent, and why Devin liked that, for example, is because I would show up every night and I would play things pretty much the same every night. So,
Exactly.
Yep.
Is there something like also from mindset kind of thing? Because like, of course, like there's when there's crowd, even if it's like small crowd or big crowd, it's different than when you are rehearsing at, you know, rehearsal room. Is there certain things what comes to your like mindset kind of preparation, in addition to, I guess, like really learning, preparing the songs so you are able to like really nail them down technically? Or is that basically the key of everything?
It's a combination, to be honest, and this is how I approached it. And there's a different story that I can tell you that taught me a very big lesson that I actually will tip my hat to Devin with, but I'll say that after. The way I approach it, and have for a very long time now, is I do all the wood shedding in the rehearsal space, all the practices with the band, or if I'm going into the studio, just practicing to the tracks with the click track. Okay. And my approach to live was, I've done the work. I trust myself. I know I could do this in my sleep now because I've prepared for it. Live, it was all about the audience. It was about being grateful and having fun with them, and just being, holy fuck, I'm playing Royal Albert Hall. Holy shit, I'm at Red Rocks. Holy crap, I'm playing Wacken, or I'm playing Tuska, or what. I was just taking in those moments because I knew it wouldn't last forever. So I wanted to be able to have those fond memories, and I do. And I'm so happy that I was able to take in those moments and focus on the moment, on playing live, interacting with the fans, with my bandmates, unless your fucking hand was cramping up. Well, that's a different story. But so that was my method of getting ready for gigs, was do all the hard work, the worrying, and oh shit, this isn't going well, in the rehearsal space. Get it to the point where you get on stage where you're not thinking about that anymore. Now you're going through the motions. Now you're focused on putting on a show for the crowd, interacting with your bandmates, the crowd, and more importantly, being grateful and taking in this experience that you can remember for the rest of your life. And you know what? I'm a billionaire, not financially, but I'm a billionaire in experiences because I have such a great memory and such a fondness of all the gigs I played. And you know what? That you just can't replace. If I never play a live show again, which I doubt will happen, I'm sure I'll be back out there again. But if I didn't, I can die happy, man. Like the shit I got to experience with Devin and even Imonolith, the rare amounts of times we played, and 10 Ways, all the different bands that I played, even before I made it with Devin, I remember those gigs, man. And I'm beyond grateful. I'm just glad that I approached it that way. So that's how I look at it, and that's how I prepare for live. And you know what? It worked for me.
Yeah, I also remember at least at some point you used to also play with those closed headphones.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
ones were those?
I used the Vic Firth ones.
Okay.
But I wasn't endorsing Vic Firth, so I put tape over over top of it, so I didn't. But I was using those, and the reason why I use those is because I have tinnitus or tinnitus, whichever you prefer. And yeah, what I did is I actually used in-ear monitors, but I put those over top of it to block out more noise so I could turn down my mix. And I did something that's interesting, and I think Gene Hoglan does the same thing. I have, and this blows people away, 0 drums in my in-ear mix. Nothing. I would turn it down so I could hear my kit acoustically, but I could still hear the click and the rest of the band, and it wasn't affecting my tinnitus. So that's why I started using those. I developed that while we were recording the Z2 record because, long story short, we were writing even Transcendence material at that time in 2014. And then it just came to a point where I think it was 6 or 7 weeks before the album recording, we're flying to LA to record that one. He was like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. We're doing Z2. And we're like, what? And we had to learn 2 albums worth of material in literally 7 weeks. It was crazy. And so I was drumming 8 hours a day, and I was a fucking dumbass, and I didn't take breaks. So it wears down your ears, and I developed tinnitus.
Okay. Yeah.
My fault. It's like live and learn. And it's, you know what? I live with it. I dial it out. Now I'm talking about it, I can hear it. But this whole interview, up until this point, I didn't hear it because I'm just used to it. I can tune it out. You know what I mean? But that's why I wore those over the head. Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying like that, like normally, for example, at night or something, that tinnitus is not really bothering, but it is still there.
I was out golfing yesterday with my buddy, 7:30 in the morning, and didn't notice it once.
That's really nice.
Just but the one time every day that I do notice it is when I go to bed. When I go to bed, it's just quiet, right? So it's crystal clear, and I'm just like, oh, there it is. I just fall asleep to it. I'm just, you know what? Your mindset is everything, man. Mindset is everything. If you're gonna let something bother you, it's gonna bother the shit out of you and drive you fucking crazy. So for me, it's just like, it's there. But you know what? I would do it all over again to have all the experiences I have, And you know what? It taught me a lesson. And very quickly, I did mention it, that there was a story about Devin and I, about performing live. So here's a story I've only told a handful of times. So this is great for your podcast, unique to it. Our first gig ever, which I told you, was in Atlanta, Georgia for Prog-Power. Our first big professional gig, first gig I've ever done outside of Canada.
Not bad.
And so we fly down there, and you know we're playing this show. And I was a perfectionist. When I grew up, it was just something I developed in my younger years. And listening to Neil Peart didn't help very fucking much. I'll tell you how much. It's like that shit was hard to learn, right? So, anyways, but I was a perfectionist, bottom line. And really, you know, there's a lot of pride in it, but at the same time, if I blew a fill or whatever, I get super down and you're a fucking idiot. What are you doing? You know, it's like I'd be that kind of guy. And we ended up playing that show, and you know what? In hindsight, it was a great show. It was our first show ever outside of Canada. We did one warm-up show before that at a club in Vancouver that went well. And then we did this major show. And anyways, I felt like I didn't play good. That's just it. And at the end of the show, everyone's happy and celebrating. Wow, we did our first gig. I was like, oh, I played like shit, you know, and I brought down the vibe of the whole band. And there was a point where Devin actually pulled me aside. And he's like, I need to talk to you. And so we went to a different room altogether. He's like, listen, man. He goes, everyone felt it was a great show. We didn't, you know, I don't even know what you're talking about, but like you're bringing the whole room down. And if this is what I'm going to expect, you know, after every show we play, and we're going to play a lot of shows, dude. He goes, I don't know if you're the right fit for this band. And holy fuck, talk about instantly sobering your whole view of everything. And you know what? Truly, I was upset because I wanted to give my best to Devin. I wanted to give my best for the audience, for my band. And it wasn't coming from a place of ego or being selfish. It was just this perfectionism that I had developed since childhood. And yeah, after that day, my whole world changed. I worked very hard at eliminating perfectionism. And I'm very proud to say now, it's like, fuck, I've been, you know, in festivals and I remember playing Hellfest in France, and I botched a simple fill in Super Crush. I just laughed. Because you know what I'm looking at? I'm like, oh, I did that in front of 80,000 people, but who cares? Look at where you fucking are. You know how many people would kill to be in my throne right now? Playing this drum kit? Whatever, man. You know? And so, yeah, you know what? It's like that talk was one of the most humbling talks that I've ever had in my life. And again, I tip the hat to Devin. You know, it's like he taught me a very valuable lesson that day, and it's one I'll never forget, and it's one I'm very grateful for.
That's a good story. You mentioned that when you are using the live monitoring, you are turning basically, or you are not directing any drums to the mixing thing.
Yeah.
I actually also prefer the same thing, but still, I think there might be still something to, at least for me, to still figure out maybe regarding the click sound, or at least to me, the monitoring affects a lot, like how I'm able to perform and kind of feel the song and stuff like this. Are there certain things how you prefer to have, for example, click tracks, the click sound, or approaches, how you like to have that?
Yeah, for me, it was all about the instrumentation and click track. Click track was the loudest thing in my mix by far. And then the guitars and bass were just slightly below it, so the click really stuck out. Because it's my job, our whole light show, the videos, everything is run off click. If I'm off, we are fucked. You know, so, and it's funny, I never even thought of it as pressure. I was just like, oh, I thought and this is something I think drummers can take from this, or any musician. I thought as the click track as an extra member of the band. He or she just happened to have perfect timing. You know what I mean? But I jammed to it. I played in front of it. Sometimes I would play behind it because Dev said, you know, I really want Deadhead, for example, play a little bit behind the click on that. So I would fuck with it. You know what I mean? And I'd play with it. And I bring it back in and just make it that much bigger. You know, so click track was first and foremost a big thing, then instrumentation. And I had Devin's vocals, but true story, after a while, I would take Devin's vocals completely out of the mix because he would make me laugh so much with the shit he would say on stage. And I would literally fuck up drum parts at times because I'd just be listening to what he's saying and I'd just laugh my ass off, right? So at one point I would pretty much, his voice was in there, but it was very low. And sometimes he would communicate to me but I wouldn't hear it because I had him so low in the mix that he'd turn around. I was like, "Are you gonna answer me?" He'd like literally live on stage, right? This is pretty funny. And then I had to explain to him, I'm like, "Dude, you make me laugh so much, you know." And I don't know if he'd remember that, but it was pretty funny. So I had him low in the mix, you know. But yeah, and it wasn't, his vocal performance was always great, but he just made me laugh so much. So that would be my mix: is click track, instruments are there, but below it, and then that was pretty much it.
Have you found certain type of click sound which you prefer? Like
Yeah, wood block.
Wood
The
block.
wood block sound, yeah.
Okay.
Is all of here. I'll give you an example. Give me 2 seconds here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring this up for you and all the people to hear. Let's see. This is something you guys can experience. There it is. Okay. So here's an example of clicks. This is what I would listen to.
Planet of the Apes. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So that's a click sound. So that's Devin. At the start, he would introduce every song, and then he'd say how many clicks? 4. Boom, we're in. And that was he even called it, as you can see here, it's like apes for Ryan. So that was my practice click that he did for me. And he was really cool in that way too, in the sense that he would, I'd be like, "Hey man, I really want to practice this, you know, or whatever. Can you give me like clicks?" And so I have a whole bunch of click tracks that are titled that: Apes for Ryan, Super Crush for Ryan, or whatever, you know. So it's pretty cool. So I get a specific mix that I could practice to. But that was the click track sound that I liked and that we used in the band, and everyone liked that sound, you know.
Right.
That's Devin's go-to sound. So
have you noticed yourself, like, you know, regarding the click sound, at least for me, when I'm, for example, at the moment, trying to figure out still my bass drum technique for these faster beats, you know, like, at least to me, it's easier to, if I like, because if it's like a fast tempo and it's like tick, 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 but if I half it, it's easier for me to kind of like focus on the thing. It doesn't fuck me up like mentally so much. Yep. Have you noticed similar kinds of things?
Yeah, it's the same. It's, for example, I never want an accent in there. If it's tick, 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 that fucks me up. It's like, I don't want to hear that, especially with like apes. There's no fucking way you can play to that, you know. And so all of our clicks were just that. And Devin would have voice cues in there though. He'd be like, you know, and in apes there were a bunch of voice cues, you know. Right. So like we'd do that and yeah, we had a great system, man. But yeah, I agree with you. It's like I just want one sound, it does it. Time signatures are up here. I don't need it in the click track. It actually fucks me up if you start doing it in the click track. Yeah. It's just like I've worked, I've done my homework. I know the signatures. It's all up here, you know.
Were you always like starting the song yourself from some like?
No, it was actually Mike St. John and the keyboard player when he was in it. And before that, literally, shit you not, Dave Young would go behind one of our scrims. There'd be a MacBook, and he'd just go press play, boom. But you know what? We always had our sets timed out, right? So if Devin was gonna have a banter, he'd do a banter. And then, you know, he'd put a little cue. It's like, you know, 15 seconds or whatever. I can't remember how it was. Sometimes Dave would start it, but it was always set that we could just go. And when we had Mike St. John, he would be the one starting the clicks for every song and all that. So he would just wait for Devin. Since he was the keyboard guy and had the computer right there and everything, it was just easier, right? So I never had to deal with that.
You have still certain like go-to practice routines yourself, which you still repeat?
Not really, man. I'm like every once in a while whip out stick control and just go, oh, how fast can I play this page just to keep up on it, right? And I teach it all the time, so I don't do that often because I'm usually showing my students it. What dictates my practicing now is what session I'm doing, who I'm jamming with, you know, trying different things in that. If I go to the kit and I'm just by myself, I'm more interested now on coming up on new grooves and different feels, or I heard something from a song. It's like, oh, maybe I'll try that and see what I can come up with. So, you know, I put into practice for so many years. Now I kind of just want to enjoy drumming and just push my boundaries for what I can do and go, oh, why don't I try this? Or, you know, oh, Gavin Harrison did a really cool thing here. Or, you know, I heard Mario do this. Oh, I'm going to try my own version of something like that. You know, like, so I don't really have a dedicated practice. And you know what? If I end up getting in another band again, or like, for example, 10 Ways, I just focused on that, you know, and it was just coming up with all my different ideas and bouncing off the guys. And yeah,
Right.
you know, so.
Yeah. One thing which like metal drummers seem to, maybe your students as well, like most often if they are metal drummers, is, you know, bass drum technique, which is like so essential in this thing, and like, you know, faster stuffs. What kind of technique have you been using? Like, for example, if you had needed to go to like, I think in the Love song, in the Strapping Young Lad, it goes to something like 190 16th notes or something like this. What kind of techniques have you been applying regarding the like a faster tempos of the bass drum technique?
Everything I've done is heel up. That's it. I've never done swivel. I've never done heel toe. I've never done anything but that. And so when you get to the 190 200s, which I've done over the years and whatnot, you know, where you get into the toe tapping thing, you get the initial hit, and then you're just using the leverage of the pedal. So what I do is, if this is the drum pedal, right, and here's my foot, here's my heel, I play about, I always say to my students, 3/4 the way up the pedal just for everything. But when I go into the fast stuff, and then the leverage of the pedal, and my bass drum's moving, like, it's like I'm still getting tons of power from it, but it'd still be that same technique. I wouldn't do swivel or anything.
But basically
like that.
ankle technique, whereas then like maybe full leg like for the slower ones, but then it goes to the ankle technique, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And move down the pedal for the faster speeds, because then you're using the leverage of the pedal to keep that going, right? Which tons of guys do, right? So
yeah.
But that's all I've ever used is heel up. I've never learned any other technique. And you know what? I've had students too. It's like, hey, can you teach me swivel? I said, you're gonna have to go to someone else. I don't even know how to do it. You know, I remember one time I was talking. I'm friends with Krim, play with Decapitated. He's with Septic Flesh now, and just a phenomenal drummer. And his swivel technique's insane. You know, and I asked him one time, I was like, so what are you doing? He kind of gave me a rundown. I'm like, oh fuck, I can't be bothered, man. You know, I was already touring with Devin, and I already had my shit. I'm like, the last thing I want to do is change technique midway through a tour or something, you know. So yeah,
and it's pain in the ass to really learn, you know, the fine, like a really fine grained ankle techniques and these swivels, and like when you really need to go to 200 and beyond, like it's really like meticulous, so many aspects affecting that thing. So it's
totally.
really time consuming stuff as well to really.
It is. Then I didn't have time.
Exactly.
And
No
I
need,
already
really.
had a technique dialed in. So I'm just like, don't fix something that's not broken. So that was my approach.
Exactly. Right. And well, overall, like your presence, like in addition to the drumming thing, you post a lot of like this motivational, like, you know, content and all these relevant things, and which I think was also like your, you know, practicing mentality to like really like be well prepared. And I guess the one thing which is also part of the practicing, and also like I guess also social media, is like this showing up thing, and you are really doing that really well still these days, like at least it seems so.
Yeah, you know what, it's who I am. And you know, it's you know, my posts on social media, you know, of course I'm going to get the biggest posting drum stuff, you know what I mean, and I'm fine with that. But I do that because even when I teach my drum students, there's there's hidden self-development, and there always has been for years. Ever since I started teaching over like 25 years ago, I've always included self-development in that because I've believed in it. It's worked for me, and I've seen it work for other students of mine. And I just want to pass on a positive message, but more importantly, a message that can help someone live their best life. Because I don't believe in just, I don't even like technically the term motivational, development or what. I'm more about transformational. It's like, how are you going to transform your life so it works for you? What may work for me might not work for someone else. But how you approach your life, how you approach your work ethic, how you approach all the different things that you do in your life is very important. So the stuff that I like to share is my opinion. I'm not saying it's the be all end all, I'm not saying that at all. I never do that. But I'm saying, hey, you know what? This is what works for me. I have no problem sharing that with the rest of the world, and I hope it works for you. You know what I mean? And so I have my motivational Mondays. I have all these different things, and I always sprinkle in little things. I'll post a picture of my kid. This is my kids. But you know what? Every time I hit that studio, there's a different mindset. And then I'll go into something that may inspire someone. You know what I mean? And if it just helps one person, it makes me happy. So I continue to do it, and I've done motivational seminars or transformational seminars, whatever you want to call them. I've done them all over the world because I was doing them when I was touring with Devin, and I've done them in drum clinics, and I continue to do that stuff. And I have some stuff behind the scenes now, which I can't talk about, but where I'm going to be doing a lot of that kind of stuff too, with some really fucking cool people. So yeah, it's like my world's interesting, man. It's like I got a lot of things going on. Drumming's the core thing for me and always will be, but the whole self-development thing is very much in my life in really cool ways. I got a lot of different things going on, man. And right now, like I said, I'm just enjoying life, and I'm very busy, and I make a great living drumming, which is incredible. And it's like, I do miss touring sometimes, but the landscape of the world right now, and especially after what COVID did to the music industry, and I'm still in touch with all my friends who I've made over the years in different bands. And yeah, I hear it's definitely not as fun as it used to be, way back in the day, but still fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm not making it sound like it's horrible, but it's a lot tougher for bands to tour now. It's like, if the opportunity ever came with a band that I enjoy being with, and I can make a good living from it and whatnot, would I do it? Hell yeah, I would. But I'm not actively searching for it either. It's like, because I got so many other cool things happening. So the motivational thing is something just like drumming. No matter what, it's always going to be there because I just love it. I love helping people. I love seeing people win. I'm not the guy who's like, oh, they're starting to get popular. I hope they fall on their face. I'm not like that. I'm like, fucking awesome. I hope they succeed. I want my drum students to take their drumming wherever they want to go. If they want to do what I was doing with my career, then I want that for them. And that's why I openly share those things online. I don't care if it gets 150, 500 likes or 12 likes. Doesn't matter to me. I post it, I leave it, I move on.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things is that, I think, and which I think also you've been addressing, is that, with the showing up thing, like it's not really about, like in the social media, it's not really about the likes, even though, well, you want to get likes, but still like equally important, or maybe even more important, is I think also in the social media landscape for musicians is to, like, show up. Then it kind of like, even if it gets 2 likes or whatever, it can still remind somebody who saw you somewhere that you are still around here, and then they remember you. But if you don't do it, then they might pick somebody else. But it can remind somebody about that you are still around, even if it doesn't get any likes.
This is it. You nailed it. I couldn't say it any better. And you're right. Just show up. That's what life is. Life is about showing up. It's about getting out of bed every day and going, you know what? I'm going to make today awesome. One day at a time. Don't focus on your future. Don't focus on your past. Focus now, because the only thing you can change or do something in is the present. You can't make the future happen. You can work towards it, and hopefully your future turns out the way you want it, but you can't control that. Like, I knew when I was growing up, I want to be a professional musician and tour the world. When I was 20, if you told me I was going to be playing with Devin Townsend, not a fucking chance. You know, Devin wasn't even famous then. You know what I mean? It's like you just don't know. So when you wake up, you can control right fucking now. And that's what your life is a series of decisions. Take accountability for your life and make wise decisions. And you know what? Make decisions that are good for you. You know, that'll benefit you and those that you love around you. And for me, it's like I love a lot of people. I obviously love my family. I love my friends. I love the fan base that follows me. You know, like I'm extremely grateful for all those things because I can still make a living doing what I actually love. So that's, you said it perfectly. Show up, but show up daily in the present. Past is a lesson. There's lots you can take from your wins and your failures, especially your failures. The future is what you're doing right now. So make every day fucking awesome, because none of us know when our last day will be. You know?
Yeah. Of course, sometimes it's not easy, like if something is not happening or something going, but then it comes like trying at least to hold the mentality, like, you know, keep on showing up still, and then eventually something can result out of that. If you just do the right things.
That's exactly it, man. And that's how you have to approach it, is you get there from taking each step of that staircase. You know, we always see the top and we go, we can't wait to get there. But the only way you're going to get there is by taking each step. You know what I mean? So you got to take the good days with the bad days. There's wins, there's failures, there's mistakes. But you know what? There's always a gold piece of nugget in there that you can learn from. So if you just wake up and, you know, I wake up today and I always list 5 things I'm grateful for every morning. It's different every morning. And it's not materialistic things. I'm grateful for my eyesight. I have tinnitus, but you know what? I'm grateful I can still hear, you know? And if you approach your day like that with gratitude, I think gratitude is a very underrated thing. You know, you hear people say, oh yeah, I'm grateful. It's like, well, what are you grateful for? You know, I'll be grateful when. Fuck that. There's a million things. You know what you can be grateful for? Take your pulse. If you can't be grateful for that, you got a fucking problem. You know, so gratitude, taking each day for each time. You're going to have bad days, but when you balance it out with all the good days, life's pretty good, man. You know? So it really is your approach and how you mentally view things. And I've always believed that. And you know what? I love my life. And I really feel my best days are still ahead of me. You know, and it's not wishful thinking. It's just been like that for me. So I'm going to keep rolling with it, man. You know, and it's like, it's exciting. I got a lot of fun things happening right now that are very promising. And who knows? You know, it's like I might be on tour in 6 months. I don't know. I don't plan on it. It's like I'm not talking to any bands right now. Anything can happen. And you know what? I think the biggest thing that you can take away from this piece of advice is just leave things open, man. You know, have your goals and your visions and work towards them, but you never know. A guy like Devin Townsend can call you out of the fucking blue one day. You know what I mean? Happened to me. So just keep on showing up. That's the key.
Exactly. I have to ask about the rehearsal space, or the space where you have your drums, and I guess you're also taking like students also at the location. What kind of setup you have there for the drums where you are rehearsing the facility?
Yeah, it's just my Sonor SQ2 kit, and we actually share the room. I share the room with a couple guys that I'm jamming with, and we're writing some music that's really cool, kind of progressive rock stuff. And then we share it with another band. But I teach privately there, and I also teach at a couple education centers as well in Vancouver. And yeah, the setup there is just basic. We get half the room I set up in the corner. I have it set up so all my stuff is there. I can teach my students at various times. We have a schedule. And then I get lots of time for me to practice as well, along with jamming with those guys. So it's a pretty simple setup, man. It's like, I don't have a multi-camera setup, or I'm not hooked up to a DAW or anything. All my drum cams That's, it's super basic. It's raw, and there's no fixing notes or anything like that. What you see is what you get. That's 100% me.
You also give the remote drum lessons.
Yeah. Yeah, I teach online students all over the world. I have students in Australia, Europe. I had a student in Japan, Australia, North America, of course, everywhere. And it's open. It's like I have a pretty damn full schedule. But, if a student's interested, there's always somewhere where I can fit it in, especially if it's a student overseas and they contact me. It's like, hey, I want to get lessons. It's like easier for me because I get up at 8 a.m. and I'll teach someone in Finland or Germany or Netherlands, Spain, wherever, I've had students all over the world. So I'm always open to it. I have a pretty full schedule, but it's like, depending on the time, yeah, I might be able to teach you, if are you available on this day at this time? I look at it like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. I've had to turn students down. Then there's other times like, actually, yeah, I'm available. If you want to do that, let's book it. I teach bi-weekly. And, they just get in contact with me through usually Instagram or Facebook, and they DM me. I give them all the details, and we set up the lessons.
Do you have a certain what is your normal day like looking like? You wake up early-ish and then have what kind of thing? Is there certain a pattern or habits or certain routines which you like to do, how to start the day? And is there something which tends to repeat?
Yeah, there is. Me, wake up, have this built-in alarm clock. I could try and sleep in past 7 and 8, fucking happening. I always wake up around that time. So I get up, I don't fight it. Coffee's on in a second. I usually slam some water, and then I read every morning. I journal as well. I like journaling
What
because
do
I
you
like
read online stuff, or what do you read?
No, I read books, physical books. I don't know why I can't read on like an iPhone or iPad. I can't do that shit. I need a physical book. So
But
I
that's
read
not a bad thing.
Yeah. And then I have my coffee, and then usually I have Monday through Thursdays. I teach every morning, someone around the world. Those are my online lessons. So there's always someone 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. I'll teach a couple lessons. After that, I go for a walk I just like connecting with nature and stuff. So I always go for a daily walk, and then it's straight to the gym. I work out 5 days a week, go to the gym, get my workouts done. And then by that time I come back, have a healthy lunch, get my protein and all that stuff. I eat really healthy too. And then it's usually Monday through Thursday, I teach at the schools, the education centers. And I usually got to be there by 3 p.m. And that's my schedule Monday through Thursday. Friday through Saturday, I on purpose don't book students or anything. I need that time for session work, and just to enjoy life. Go golfing, hang out with friends. Summer comes, I like doing road trips, jump in the Challenger and go to Vancouver Island or drive somewhere. It's like you need that time. You need time for yourself. So Friday through Sunday, that's my time. Monday through Thursday, from like 7 till like 9 or 10 at night, jam-packed. It's just lots of teaching, lots of drumming, practice. Yeah, that's my routine.
Right. So what are other things outside of the drumming which you are interested or basically spend time with?
Yeah, I love sports. It's like golfing. I love hockey. I love tennis.
I guess you are, since you've been living in Vancouver a long time, you're a Canucks guy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, fuck, I've been through. I watched them. I watched them 3 times. At the Stanley Cup Finals.
All right. Yeah.
Fucking kills me, man. Oh my God. We won't even talk about that. But
we can talk about it because I'm a huge Pittsburgh Penguins fan. But
okay, yeah. You know what? They're great. I love, yeah, I'd love to see Sidney Crosby win one more. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, sports I love hanging out with my friends. I love cribbage, card game. So I love playing cribbage. So I'll meet my buddy every Sunday night and we play crib.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like, yeah, and I don't know. I always make time for friends. Obviously, relationships and all that stuff. I'm all over the place. I love driving my car. I love going, like I said, going on road trips. I don't know, hikes. I like going hiking. I live in beautiful British Columbia. It's like there's so many beautiful places around
Is
here.
Oregon somewhat is there living?
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah. Oregon's a little south of us in
yeah.
the States there, but that's beautiful too.
Yeah, that's
man.
insane, like landscape. Because I'm also big into like landscape photography. I also made a solo U.S. trip of the western Utah and the west coast, and also these Iceland, Norways, and things.
Yeah.
So, and of
Gorgeous.
course, Oregon is one of those places which I would be, if I would be able to sometime again get back to the States or like to the Northern America. The Oregon area is amazing.
That's a must see. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. But yeah, same thing. I really got into photography too. I got like Canon D6 and all the lenses, and I'm same as you actually. It's like on all those tours, I have so many landscape photos. It's insane. Like that's what I do. I'd get up at like 8 or 9, walk off the tour bus, and just landscape photos.
You haven't been posting them a lot. Maybe you should post them.
I posted them a lot back in the day. Actually.
Okay, right.
I did.
Okay.
But I haven't lately because I haven't been touring. So every once in a while I'll post it. But when I go for my morning walks, I'll post all my stories. I'll post some of the landscape photos of where I am, and But it's like, I don't know. I'm an open book, man. It's just I could do anything. One day I could be golfing. One day I'm hanging out on a patio with my friends, or another day I'm just going for a drive and I'll find somewhere nice to take pictures. It's like,
listening to podcasts.
You know what? I don't really listen to a ton of podcasts. Actually, I never really listen to podcasts. What happens is I'll see something on socials of someone that I'm interested in, like Gavin Harrison had a podcast. Then I'll listen to specific podcasts.
Yeah.
So it's like I do listen to them, but do I go to like Joe Rogan or something and just listen? No. I'm more like I see someone did a podcast, and it's because of the person that I go to that podcast.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But yeah, you talked also about like your usual like daily route. What about like, I guess from that side, like the nutrition thing? You said you like to have your proteins like after the gym, and I guess you said you go to gym in the like early, like after the first lessons or before the lunch.
Yeah, I'm usually at the gym by like 11 a.m. and then like I said, in the morning, a breakfast I like is like I'll sometimes eat boiled eggs. I'll just boil a couple eggs and I'll eat them, and that's that. It's protein kick before I hit the gym. Other times I have rice cakes and peanut butter. I love that. You know what I mean? And then, after the gym, I'll always have either chicken breast or salmon, and then I'll air fry my potatoes and maybe have some zucchini or whatever. It's like just really healthy stuff, getting my nutrients, but making sure I'm eating my body weight in grams of protein, because as we age, we lose muscle mass, right? So I go to the gym not to be like big or anything. I don't want to, not trying to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, man, but like I go there to stay healthy, to keep fit, to keep my muscles. So you know what? If I do get another touring gig, I can step into, and the demands of the road aren't going to be difficult on me. It's like when I'm 80 years old, I want to be able to jump on an airplane and still go on vacations, as opposed to letting my body go and next thing you know, you can't. It's like, that's why I walk every day. It's super healthy for cardiovascular reasons, and so, and then dinner, again, more protein, have a steak or more chicken breasts or whatever it is. I just try to get everything in there, have a protein shake, it's like, and I feel good, man. And you know what? Weekends, fuck yeah, I'm eating burgers and fries. I don't give a shit. It's like I can afford to do that because I take care of myself. So everything in moderation. I find for most times, Monday through Friday, I don't really drink. I love my beer. I love a good rum and coke and stuff, but I save it for the weekends because I'm also a professional. I need to teach, I need to do all these different things. So I like to stay really healthy Monday through Friday. And then when weekend comes, that's where I'm going to go out. I'll eat at restaurants. I'm not really picky. It's like I have a routine. It works for me. My body responds to it. And I like we're saying, I show up, you know what I mean? I do everything through the weekend. It works for me.
Do you do any like mobility, like stretching or certain kinds of like a.
You know what? I should do a lot more of it than I do. You know, I do, but I've been saying to myself for a long time now, and one place I haven't been showing up, it's like I've been saying, you know, I should do Sundays a dedicated yoga day, you know, just for the stretching. But yeah, no, I should be doing a lot more than I do. I do the basic stuff after a workout or whatever, but yeah, I'd like to get into it, but I haven't been.
Yeah, and I guess it doesn't need to be like super much. Like for example, I try to every morning like do like, I don't know, is it like like these longer like stretchy like steps. I don't know what's the goddamn term in English, but like this and all kinds of like you know, sitting on the floor in different positions to like have hip like mobility things and like moving of that thing. But it's maybe something like a 5 minutes thing, but it's like a routine where I kind of go through different body parts. So to kind of like
it's healthy.
Maintain the mobility thing. So like try to have it something like a small thing which I'm able to do every morning without kind of excuses, at least 95% of the time. So
yeah, that's a routine I need to get on.
Yeah,
I'm not doing it, but not even 5 minutes, man. It makes all the difference.
Exactly.
So.
You're able to in that time do a lot of things, go through different body parts and like, you know, limbs, just go them through. Exactly.
Yeah.
All righty. Hey, maybe we could be wrapping it up. We have been going goddamn almost 2.5 hours.
Hey man, that's a good length. And you know what? We covered a lot of great things, man.
Yeah.
And this was super fun, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll do it again sometime down the road, you know. But this was amazing, and I appreciate what you're doing. And you know, to all the people that listen to this, the one thing that I like to say is just thank you to all the people, including yourself, who have followed me over the years. And like I said earlier, there's no way I'd be here even talking to you if I didn't have all that support. You know, all the support they showed to Devin and the Devin Townsend Project, Devin Townsend Band, my bands, Imonolith or 10 Ways or anything that I've done. You know, it's like, it's not possible without the people who come to the shows, who buy the merch, who buy the CDs, the vinyl. You know, it's like, I'm super grateful for that, including yourself, because this helps spread the word about what I do and where I'm at right now. So I'm very grateful for you and appreciate you and appreciate the time.
Like that. Likewise, man. Appreciate it. And like, let's try to keep on showing up and see what the future unfolds in front of us.
I love that. That's a good way to end it, man.
Exactly. Thanks a lot, man. See ya.